You know, this place really isn't for you. You're poor, so you should live like a poor person. Exactly. Why don't you just go home and do some piecework or something? You know, I think you're both mistaken about something. My name is Sarah. Exactly 1 year ago, I divorced Matt, who was my husband. I truly loved Matt and wanted to spend my life with him. However, Matt said to me, "You know, you've really aged." Well, I am 40 now. It's surprising how quickly we both reached 40. Yeah, but I just can't deal with older women. What? Upon further discussion, it turned out Matt's love had faded as I aged. In fact, he had already started dating a younger woman. Tracy is only 25. But she seems attracted to my mature charm. She's a good woman, not arrogant and annoying like you. So, I'm leaving you. What? It's decided. Thus, Matt unilaterally announced our separation. Of course, I didn't just agree to it so easily. I gathered evidence of his affair and got compensation from both Matt and Tracy. I hate that about you. You're too smart and arrogant. Right. It's so shameful and disgusting that you're after money. They were angry about my compensation claim, but as Matt's wife, I was within my rights. Eventually, I received several $10,000 from them and got divorced. They seem to have remarried, but it has nothing to do with me. I've been enjoying my life, focusing on my new job since the divorce. However, on a rare day off when I went shopping, I ran into Matt and Tracy. I immediately turned away upon seeing them, but they noticed me and approached. Oh. Is that Sarah? Long time no see. Oh, I thought who it was, but it's just the dull ex-wife, Sarah. What are you doing here? They went out of their way to come over in the crowd just to make snide remarks. I couldn't just ignore them after that. They looked at me and said, "What's wrong with shopping on a day off?" I don't think I deserve any complaints. Huh? But, you know, it's not exactly a complaint, but... What are you trying to say? I don't want to waste my time talking to you. Don't get so heated. We're just trying to give you advice. Advice? In response to my retort, Tracy and Matt gave an incomprehensible reaction. They snickered in a mean-spirited way and said, "Yeah, advice. You don't have much money, right? So you need to use it wisely. We're not saying you shouldn't shop. But this place has quite expensive stores, you know? Oh, for Matt and me, the prices are reasonable, but for Sarah, they're expensive, right? That's not the case. Don't pretend. Indeed, this department store in front of the station cannot be called cheap by any stretch of the imagination. But I do have enough money to refresh myself on a rare day off." Even when I denied it, Matt and Tracy still smirked and said, "Don't hide it, I know. You don't have money, right? That's not true, though. You don't have to lie. That's why you were so desperate to get compensation during the divorce a year ago, right? I heard it through the grapevine. Your annual income is $12,000, right? If that's the case, you must be barely scraping by, maybe even dipping into your savings? That's why being here doesn't suit you. Wouldn't it be better if you went after the clearance items at a discount supermarket after the time sale ends?" Unable to contain himself, Matt began to laugh at Tracy's words. They continued to laugh uproariously, looking down on me as they spoke. "When you were married to me, your income was about $50,000, right? How did it drop to $12,000? Were you fired for being incompetent and can only do part-time jobs now?" Well, either way, it was lucky for me. Good riddance to a woman earning $12,000. Poor thing. No money, youth, beauty, or prospects. It must be so sad to be poor and old, isn't it? I couldn't understand why they suddenly started saying these things. But I somewhat understood what they wanted to convey. Apparently, Matt had heard about my current situation from someone we both knew. That's how he came to believe that my annual income was $12,000. Certainly, with an income of $12,000, it would be difficult to shop at a department store. It might be true that I often aim for clearance items due to the daily struggles. If Matt and Tracy believe that my income is $12,000, I can understand why they look down on me. However, there's one thing they got wrong. My annual income isn't $12,000, though? What? What do you mean? Exactly what I said. My annual income isn't $12,000. That can't be. I heard it from Anna herself. Anna? Ah, I see. Matt, panicking, mentioned the name of my friend. That's when I realized why they were mistaken. Anna has been my best friend since high school. She's been close even after I married Matt and has visited our home many times. So, Matt knows Anna. Anna said it was bad, having only $12,000. You and Anna are best friends, right? So, you wouldn't lie to her. Sarah is a poor person with an income of $12,000, right? A few weeks ago, Matt apparently saw Anna by chance. Though they didn't speak directly. Matt and Tracy entered a cafe where Anna happened to be sitting nearby. There, Anna was updating an acquaintance about her recent life. Matt and Tracy, thinking they might hear something about my miserable life, eavesdropped. So, she's been my best friend since high school, $12,000, isn't that crazy? It really feels like a different world. They couldn't hear the entire conversation due to the distance between the tables. However, Matt and Tracy caught such words from Anna. That's why they understood my income to be $12,000 and were surprised to see me at the department store today. Matt, it seems like you're misunderstanding something. Actually, Anna wasn't talking about an income of $12,000, right? Well, yeah, but if it's not about the income being bad, then it must be the savings, right? Indeed, that would be bad too, right? After snatching so much compensation from us last year, and at 40? If you only had savings of $12,000, that would mean you have a terrible spending habit, wouldn't it? Matt and Tracy again made up their own story, chuckling together. But I, tired of being misunderstood, finally said, "It's neither about income nor savings. Can you please stop making assumptions and looking down on me?" Huh? How dare you speak so boldly, considering you're an old lady? Exactly. So, tell us, what is the $12,000 about, you poor person? It's the rent for where I live now. What? Rent? You pay $12,000 a month for that? What the heck is that? That's impossible. And why would Anna know such private details about your rent? That's when I told them the truth. My annual income isn't $12,000, nor is my savings balance. Actually, I started a business 6 months ago and became financially comfortable, which allowed me to move. I now live in a so-called high-rise condo, where only wealthy people reside. The rent there is $12,000 a month, something I had shared only with Anna. If you know the address, you can easily find out the rent. I trust Anna, so I told her about it. No, but that's impossible. Impossible? What's impossible? Because there's no way you could lead such a lavish lifestyle. It seems Matt wants to turn away from reality. Indeed, when I was married to Matt, I was just an ordinary employee. Under those circumstances, I couldn't afford to live in a high-rise condo with a monthly rent of $12,000. But I started my own business. So, I do have enough money to live well. Moreover, while I'm currently renting, I also own several apartments. I have 3 for investment purposes, and I've bought 5 apartments which I rent out to relatives. It's like you're living in a different world. And to think someone like you, an old lady, is living that life. Tracy, I may not be young, but I've worked hard and earned my money. I don't deserve to be looked down upon by someone who can't do anything just because they're young. After finally saying what I've always wanted to say to Tracy, she looked like she was about to cry. As Matt glared at me in defense of Tracy, I said, "You two were saying earlier that I don't belong in this department store, right?" "Yes, that's right. Someone like you shouldn't be coming to department stores. You might have a bit of money, but it's obnoxious, like a nouveau riche." Even after realizing I have money, Matt refuses to apologize. Instead, he continues to find fault and complain. But it's Matt who doesn't belong here. "You know, I've kept in touch with your parents even after our divorce. And Matt, I heard that you've been prioritizing your newlywed life too much, arriving late and leaving early from work. Your position and salary have decreased, your parents were lamenting, right?" "What? My parents talked about that? Wait, hold on. I haven't heard anything about a salary decrease." No, Tracy, that's not it. This is just a malicious lie from Sarah." "Then why are you panicking? Suspicious much?" Despite our divorce, I've remained on good terms with his parents. We exchange Christmas cards and sometimes talk on the phone. After mentioning the story I heard from Matt's mother, Tracy began to glare at Matt. "Let's go home immediately. We're going to check your payslips properly. I've always suspected something was off since you've been hiding them every month, but to think your salary decreased. That's a lie, I tell you." "Tracy, why would you believe Sarah's words? If it's a lie, then showing me your payslips should be no problem, right? This is a good opportunity, let's check them now." "Don't be so harsh." The two of them ignored me and started arguing in front of me. They spoke loudly despite being in the department store, attracting a crowd around us. I didn't want to be associated with them, so I left them behind and went on my way. Later, I shared this incident with Anna as a funny story. Then, unexpectedly, Matt called me. "Hello." "Oh, Sarah. Good, you haven't blocked my number, so that means you still like me, right? Let's get back together." "What?" I was frozen for a moment, unable to comprehend Matt's sudden declaration, before asking him to repeat himself. However, Matt conveniently interpreted my response as interest and started to elaborate on his own. Apparently, a few weeks after I left, Matt and Tracy had a severe argument. Tracy was angry at Matt for hiding his salary reduction, and Matt accused Tracy of being after his money. Their argument escalated, and eventually, Matt said to Tracy, "Basically, even if my salary has gone down, you could just work. Why is your annual income lower than Sarah's? She's making enough to live in a place that costs $12,000 a month." Understandably, Tracy was furious to be suddenly compared to his ex-wife. She retorted, "If you want me to earn, give me some time to work. I'm too busy taking care of a useless man in his 40s who can't even do basic household chores. Besides, it's embarrassing that someone your age can't earn more. You're too incompetent to even serve as an ATM. Their argument led to a separation. Neither was willing to compromise, only wanting to benefit at the other's expense, which prevented any calm discussion. Eventually, they decided to divorce after another discussion yesterday. You know, marrying Tracy made me realize that there's no value in just being young. A woman with earning capabilities like you suits me better. So, marry me again. I want to live in a fancy high-rise condo too. What are you talking about? Are you serious? Why should I have to take care of someone who can't even do household chores? Don't be so cold. I'm healing, right? If you work and take care of the house, I can quit my job and heal you. Come on, it's a good deal. Sarah, I love you. There's no way I'd be healed by someone like you. If I wanted healing, I'd get a dog or a cat. After separating from Tracy and being demoted with no prospects for promotion, Matt seemed desperate to have me support him. But as I told him, there's no way I could love and support someone who can neither work nor do household chores. Don't say that. Like I said earlier, you didn't block my call, right? That means you were waiting for me to contact you. So, you still love me, right? That's not it at all. I didn't block you because I forgot you existed. Stop twisting things to suit yourself. This is making me sick. So, I hung up, wanting no further involvement with Matt. Before forgetting, I blocked his number on my smartphone. Sounds like you had a tough time. It's my fault for unintentionally sharing that story with Matt, leading to this mess. I'm sorry. No, Anna, it's not your fault at all. Really, don't worry about it. It's all Matt's insensitivity that's to blame. I hurriedly reassured Anna, who apologized to me. Truly, neither Anna nor I did anything wrong. The fault lies with Matt and Tracy, who only thought of themselves. But now, I won't have to deal with Matt anymore. I've blocked his number, and even if we meet in town, I'll just avoid him. Matt's parents know my address, but they won't share it. I can now live peacefully. Months later, Matt's parents informed me that he had been fired from his job. I haven't been able to focus on work lately. I'm thinking of taking some time off at my parents' house, so prepare my room. Having lost his job, Matt sought refuge, but his parents, having disowned him after our divorce, refused. Moving forward, Matt will likely be too busy with job hunting to involve himself further with me. So, I, too, wish to forget about Matt and move on with my life.
Since both of you are serious, shall we go through with the divorce? Is that okay? Yes. Thank you. It's good timing for the divorce. This means we can go on our trip next week without sneaking around. Huh? A trip? Well, today both the pregnancy and the divorce are settled. So it's a good time for a trip, right? Once the belly gets bigger, it will be harder to move around, right? That's why we decided to go on a trip before that happens. I was just about to lie to you tonight that I have a business trip next week. I've uncovered my husband's affair, and we are heading towards a divorce. While that's okay, it seems like my husband and his lover think they can say anything in front of me now that I've mentioned divorce. They started blabbering about going on a trip and even that they were planning to lie about it for the trip. Their incomprehensible actions continue afterward. What is this? Having decided on the divorce, I left the house and have been living in a hotel for now. An envelope addressed to me arrived there. When I opened it, a completed divorce paper was inside. I understand wanting to get the divorce over with quickly. But to send the divorce papers during a trip? Are my husband and his lover mocking me? I was disgusted by their actions again, but having the divorce papers in hand earlier is better for me. So, you're saying to file it? Okay. I'll take care of filing the divorce papers and moving out the luggage tomorrow, so don't worry. I decided to make them realize how serious what they are doing, considering their light-hearted approach to affair and divorce. I am Mandy, a 36-year-old pharmacist. Being my age, people often assume I've had a long marriage and have considerably grown children. However, I am actually newly married to my husband, Ben, and it hasn't even been a year. People call this marriage a miracle, and I think so too. The miracle is not just that I got married at this age, but also that my husband is 10 years younger and very handsome. When announcing our marriage, I proudly showed off photos of my husband. That a young man and an older woman like me met was at the workplace. I'm not very proactive, and there are many women at my workplace. Also, most customers at the pharmacy are elderly, so young men rarely visit. Thus, I had no encounters and realized I was over 30. There was a time when I thought I wanted to marry, but as I was satisfied with my job, I thought being single was also fine. Telling myself this for about 2 years, I suddenly encountered a relationship. Excuse me. Please. Yes, I'll take your prescription. My husband, then 24 years old, came to the pharmacy where I work. He was a salesperson involved in an accident while on a business trip, and came to pick up his medication. Young men seldom visit my pharmacy. So, when a handsome man came, we ladies backstage were excitedly whispering about it. However, my colleagues were already married, and it seemed unlikely that a young man would be interested in me. We looked at my husband as if he were a celebrity on TV, just for visual pleasure. So, even though I found my husband attractive, I just handed over the medicines and completed the transaction as usual. His visits for medication continued for a while, leading to more visits to my workplace. Excuse me. Please. Yes, I'll take your prescription. As usual, my husband and I only had work-related conversations. This was the 3rd time my husband came to pick up his medication at the pharmacy. Since my husband's treatments are almost over, he probably won't be coming to the pharmacy much longer. Thinking this might be the last time I can feast my eyes on him, I went to fetch the plaster with the prescription in hand. I noticed a sticky note attached to the prescription while searching for the plaster. The sticky note had alphabets and numbers, so I thought it might be some number related to work. However, there's never additional instruction on a sticky note. Curious, I peeled off the sticky note and took a closer look, and it appeared to be an ID for a messaging app. Wondering why a contact sticky note was attached to the prescription, I asked my colleagues. There was a contact info attached to the prescription. Does it mean the hospital instructed to contact them? My question made the 3 married people present freeze. Thinking I had asked something out of the ordinary, I panicked, only to be chided by everyone for bragging. Then, one of the colleagues slammed a piece of paper and a pen on the desk, and yelled at me to write down my contact information. That's when I finally realized that the ID written on the sticky note was my husband's contact. It wasn't that I wanted to boast about getting his contact info, nor was I naturally airhead or slow. I simply couldn't believe that my husband would give me his contact info. Understanding the situation, I hurriedly wrote down my contact and, pushed by everyone, went back to my husband. Sorry for the delay. Here's your item for this time. Thank you. I handed over the plaster as usual, maintaining my composure, and he accepted it as usual. The only difference was that I had sneaked a piece of paper with my contact info into the plaster I gave him. That night, I was debating whether to contact my husband or not. Staring at the black screen of my smartphone laid on the table, To be exact, I wanted to contact him but couldn't muster the courage. Desperately coming up with reasons to postpone it. Suddenly, my smartphone lit up and vibrated on the table, startling me. The message was from my husband, inviting me out for a meal. Of course, I had no reason to refuse. After that, my husband kept inviting me out, and we started dating. Leading to marriage 2 years later. When we started dating, I asked why a young man like him gave his contact to an older woman like me. I only found out your age when we first went out for a meal. Until then, I thought you were in your 20s. What did you think when you found out? I was surprised you were older. Is that all?
Yeah.
What else? Isn't it natural to approach someone you like? My husband seemed puzzled by my question and responded with a question of his own. It appears that age doesn't matter to him in love and marriage. At that moment, I felt embarrassed for always worrying about my age. Though my concerns about age were resolved, there was another issue on my mind. About the wedding and the cost of starting our life together. Should I contribute a bit more? I found it hard to say directly, so I beat around the bush. My salary is significantly higher than my husband's, and I have savings. This isn't because I'm a pharmacist and he's a salesman, but simply because of our age difference. Naturally, I wondered if my husband was concerned about earning less than his wife. Moreover, since my husband is only 26, he wouldn't have saved much. So I felt bad asking him to share the expenses for the wedding and starting our new life. Why? We can just split it half-half. I'll work hard from now on. Like my concerns about age, this was also an unnecessary worry. My husband dispelled all my fears, and by the time we got married, I had no more concerns about him and could sincerely feel happy. My colleagues and friends all envied and congratulated me on my marriage. I thought we would live a happy married life from now on, but soon the situation started to change. For the first 3 months of our marriage, it was blissful newlywed life. Ben would rush home from work, we'd go out hand in hand on weekends. And he'd help with household chores. The only thing missing for a perfect life was a child. However, given my age, I'm a bit worried about that. But since Ben accepted my age and married me, I suppose he'll be understanding. We decided to put the child topic on hold and savor our current happiness. Now, 3 months into our marriage, our blissful newlywed life is gradually crumbling. Are you coming home late again today?
Yeah.
I'll probably be back around the usual time. You've been coming home too late recently. Even missing the last train and taking a taxi home. What? I'm working hard, and you're complaining? No. It's not like that. Angered by my words, Ben forcefully closed the front door, making a deliberately loud noise. The vibration and draft from the door closing knocked over a photo frame of us on the hallway shelf, gently setting the photo frame upright again. I slowly opened the front door and headed to work myself. Ben is right, complaining about wanting him home early when he's working hard is selfish. But it's not that I want to be selfish. I'm just feeling uneasy because his attitude has changed so much recently. Hey, it's burnable trash day today, and it's your turn to take it out, right? My bad. I'll make sure to do it next time. You said that last time and forgot, remember? What's the big deal if we leave trash in the house for a day or two? It is a big deal. It's unacceptable to leave burnable trash for 3 days. Stop nagging. If you have complaints, why don't you do everything yourself? Complaining to Ben, who's lounging on the living room sofa playing with his smartphone. He makes a face like it's too much trouble and escapes to the bedroom. We decided to share household chores before we got married. I know Ben isn't good at housework. But he said that even if it's tough, we should cooperate if we're getting married. and he set up various rules himself. Those rules collapsed after 3 months, and slowly more chores became my responsibility. It seems I'm doing all the trash duties today. I originally planned to primarily handle the household chores, so I don't see it as much of a problem. The problem is that Ben has changed. He used to be so kind before we got married, so why has he suddenly? I try desperately to shake off the words I don't want to think about that are about to cross my mind. 3 months later, Ben continues to change, and now mere reminders aren't enough. Ben, did you use the household money again? I just withdrew my share of the salary. We need to save for the future. I don't think it's right to spend thousands a month. You earn a high salary, and we don't have kids, so we can live without my salary, right? Ben goes back to lounging on the sofa with his smartphone. He no longer looks at me or talks to me in the house. It's like his smartphone has become his wife. Wherever we go, it's not me but his smartphone that's with him. Stop looking at your phone all the time and look at me when you talk. Shut up. Don't talk to me like you're my mom. Ben walks past me, still looking at his smartphone screen, and goes into the bedroom. I'm left fretting as Ben no longer contributes financially to the household. Naturally, he continues to come home late every day, and on weekends. He goes out alone, no longer spending time with me. Was he bothered by the fact that I earn more? Or is he frustrated because we haven't been able to have children as he mentioned before? I'm reflecting on not taking Ben's words for granted. And thinking maybe I should have been more considerate towards him. However, I soon realized this reflection was unnecessary. A few days later, I was invited to a cafe by a friend. I thought, it's a beautiful day today, and you can see far into the distance. As I was gazing out of the window, I witnessed Ben walking hand in hand with an unknown woman into an obstetrics and gynecology clinic. The woman looked young, probably in her early 20s at first glance. The shock made me grip my coffee cup so hard I thought it might break. Of course, it wasn't a coincidence that I found Ben. The friend who invited me to the cafe works as a nurse at the clinic Ben and the woman entered. I had shown a picture of Ben to my friend before, so she knew both his face and name. When she saw Ben coming to the clinic with an unknown woman, she contacted me. However, she couldn't divulge patient information, even to family. So, she asked me to meet at a cafe from where the clinic was visible. And simply said to gaze out of the window today. I somewhat understood what she meant and kept looking out of the window from the cafe. It was just by chance that Ben and the woman showed up there. I wanted to storm into the clinic right away, but causing a scene there would be a nuisance. Besides, there might be a reason Ben was accompanying a female acquaintance. Therefore, I decided to wait for the two to come out of the clinic. My friend left, and I waited alone in front of the clinic for about an hour. Was Ben really having an affair? Could it be that his affair partner was pregnant? Or was he just accompanying an acquaintance for a checkup? The hour filled with anxiety felt long, and during that time, various thoughts crossed my mind. When Ben and the woman finally appeared, I hastily confronted them. Can you explain why you were at the obstetrics and gynecology clinic? You? Why are you here? Ben, who usually doesn't look at my face and focuses on his smartphone screen, now looks at me with wide eyes. However, I direct my gaze not at Ben but at the woman. The woman looks extremely uncomfortable. Though it's not yet confirmed, I'm bracing myself for the possibility of Ben's affair. We can't talk here. Shall we move over there? I point to the cafe where I was with my friend earlier and lead Ben and the woman back to the shop. We enter the shop, and before starting the conversation, I order the coffee I had an hour ago to calm down. Until the coffee arrived, I remained silent. So Ben and the woman couldn't speak either, both looking anxious. They must feel intimidated by my silence. Once the coffee is served, I take a sip and finally start speaking. What is the relationship between you two? Ben always seemed annoyed by my conversations, so I decided to cut straight to the point. Being 26 and young, Ben could find relationships anywhere. So I'm not interested in where or how they started their affair. I can guess when the affair started from the changes in Ben's behavior. All I want to hear is the result. That is... Ben stammers in response to my question, seemingly flustered. At this point, it seems clear. The woman sitting next to Ben must be his affair partner. And she was the one on the other side of the smartphone screen Ben was always glued to. His late returns, the end of our weekends together, the cessation of financial contributions to the house, all seem to be caused by this affair. The pieces of infidelity and Ben's changes are connecting one by one in my mind. Are you at the obstetrics and gynecology clinic because you're pregnant? That is... Ben squirms, unable to answer. With no clear answers coming from Ben, my irritation grows, and I start drinking my coffee faster. Just as I was about to scold Ben to confess everything. It was not Ben but his affair partner who spoke up. It's already out in the open, and there's no escaping it. So we might as well make things clear. That is, but... Nice to meet you, I'm Hannah. Ben and I are dating. The last test wasn't clear, but today's test confirmed I'm 6 weeks pregnant. I was taken aback by the affair partner suddenly spilling the truth. My hand holding the cup halted midway. The eyes of the affair partner were serious. She probably sees me as the final boss or a wall she needs to overcome to be with Ben. I understand the seriousness, but from my perspective, it just seems like brazenness. Hearing the words of the affair partner seemed to have given Ben the wrong kind of courage to start being defiant too. We are serious about each other. I really feel bad for you, but can you divorce us for our sake? Ben. You really said it. Thank you. But it's going to be tough from here. Divorce, childbirth, starting a new life, we have a lot to do. As long as I'm with Ben, it will be okay. With Ben acting like a tragic heroine, I almost believe I'm indeed the final boss for them. I knew Ben would go straight once he fell in love. But if a new love arises after marriage, there should be a proper order to things. I glanced outside at the obstetrics clinic and sighed. It seems age does matter in marriage after all. This is not to say that marriages with an age gap are bad. It means caution is needed when marrying someone with the emotional maturity of a childlike love affair. Now that the affair and pregnancy are out in the open, I'd rather be the one asking for a divorce. However, seeing the two of them, their attitudes of not thinking they did anything wrong infuriate me. I can't let them just defeat the final boss and happily ever after. Thinking about making them realize how difficult what they are doing is. I first need to express my willingness to divorce. I understand you two are serious, so shall we go through with the divorce? Is that okay? Yes. Thank you. The two of them cheered and hugged loudly enough to draw attention from those around us. I wish they wouldn't forget we're in a cafe because I'm embarrassed. It's good timing for the divorce, right? This means we can go on our trip next week without sneaking around. Huh? A trip? Well, today both the pregnancy and the divorce are settled. So it's a good time for a trip, right? Once the belly gets bigger, it will be harder to move around, right? That's why we decided to go on a trip before that happens. I was just about to lie to you tonight that I have a business trip next week. My hand went limp and I nearly dropped my cup. Now that I've mentioned divorce, it seems Ben and his lover think they can say anything in front of me. They began to blabber about going on a trip and even planning to lie about it for the trip. we're about to get divorced, you know? There are things we need to discuss. Can't the trip be canceled? Huh, that's a bit. You're going to make us cancel now? Let us have this trip at least. I sighed, perhaps the deepest sigh of my life. It seems their priority is the trip over the divorce. Do you even understand? The reason for the divorce is because of you too? Then let's quickly settle what needs to be settled now. What do we need to decide? Quickly. Well, what needs to be decided is the division of property. And the compensation for the affair, I guess. Since the apartment is rented, it's just about who stays. I don't plan to stay, so I'll be the one to leave. How much is the compensation for the affair? Hannah, can you look it up? Instructed by Ben. His affair partner starts searching on her smartphone for the compensation for the affair. What an irresponsible discussion this is. However, I decided to watch them warmly. To make them realize that divorce isn't as easy as they think. The internet says it's between $5,000 to $30,000. Does it cost that much? Hey, can we settle for $5,000? I'm not well versed in law, but that might be too little. The compensation can be decided after the divorce since it's more about our future lives I want to decide on, like the house and money. I see. You're leaving the house, right? Then, Hannah and I will live there. Then, I'll leave right after this. I'll move my things out while you two are on your trip. Next is the division of property, right? That's just our savings since we were only married for about 6 months. So splitting it half and half should be fine, right? That sounds good to me. I was internally pleased that I made Ben say what I wanted without any trouble. So, divorce discussions aren't something to be settled quickly. I borrowed an A4 sheet and a pen from the shop to put our discussion in writing, creating a simple document. It stated that we are divorcing, the cause is Ben's affair, and our property will be split in half. Unaware of anything, Ben signs my handwritten document. Such a document has some legal effect, so I carefully take it from Ben without folding it. I'll go back first to pack up, so let me leave. All right, take care. Thank you for the divorce. I leave the shop with a smile to Ben and his affair partner. The next week, I was still searching for a new house, living in a hotel. Today is the day Ben and his affair partner leave for their trip. So I plan to clean up the old house with movers tomorrow. While checking my schedule for tomorrow in the hotel, thinking about the substantial amount of work, the front desk informs me that I've received mail. It was just one envelope. What is this? Opening it, I find a completed divorce paper inside. I understand wanting to get the divorce over quickly, but to send the divorce papers during a trip. I'm dismayed by their actions again. But having the divorce papers in hand beforehand is better for me. You want me to file it, huh? Okay. I'll take care of filing the divorce papers and moving out the luggage tomorrow, so don't worry. I imagine telling Ben about tomorrow's plans, thinking of his face. When Ben and his affair partner return home, they will surely be surprised and immediately call me. 2 nights later, as I'm relaxing in the hotel, I receive a call from my ex-husband. Hey. What's going on? Everything in the house is gone. That's not true, right? I left your clothes and games on the floor, didn't I? I couldn't help but laugh, imagining my flustered ex-husband's face. From the other end of the phone, I can hear the panic in his affair partner's voice as well. They're likely checking around the house. Their panic is understandable. I dumped my belongings in a storage unit and sold everything that seemed non-essential to Ben, disposing of what couldn't be sold. This included everything from furniture and appliances to necessary items like shower heads and stoves. to kitchen utensils and small ornaments, thoroughly emptying the place. Now, the house looks like it's waiting for new tenants. Why would you do this? You better compensate for everything. Why? I just did what we discussed, right? If we're divorcing, the property should be split in half. Since you sent the divorce papers, the divorce is finalized. So, I made sure to split the property in half for you. What do you mean? Furniture and appliances are marital property, right? We agreed to divide them equally instead of allocating specific items to each other. So I sold everything and turned it into cash. Isn't your clothing on the living room floor? Isn't there no money on top? I could hear hurried footsteps through the phone. It seemed Ben rushed to the living room. Then, after a thud as if he kneeled on the floor, my ex-husband muttered in a barely audible, frail voice. What? $300 and some change? All the house items sold for this amount. That's right. We had some appliances we brought from our own homes when we started living together, right? So, many items fetched a low price. Some were even told would cost money to take away. Most of the miscellaneous goods were not eligible for purchase and were disposed of. I could hear the sound of coins clinking as if Ben's hand had gone limp and dropped them. Even I felt that the total of $600 from selling everything thoroughly was a bit low. However, that's what you get when you use a recycling shop without much thought. If we had used an online auction or a second-hand shop specializing in furniture and appliances, we might have gotten a bit more. But the aim wasn't to sell for the highest price. I wanted to strip my ex-husband of all the essentials and give him as little money as possible. So, I just used a recycling shop without giving it much thought. How am I supposed to live in a place that looks like it's waiting for a new tenant? That's not my problem. We agreed on this, didn't we? Property gets split in half upon divorce. It's written on the document I have. And you signed it, didn't you? Got any complaints? My ex-husband fell silent, unable to retort. Regretting that we had wrapped up the divorce discussions so hastily was too late now. Besides, our divorce discussions are still ongoing. I'd prefer he save his regrets for after everything is concluded. You seem to have completely forgotten, given the trip and the state of the house. But we haven't settled on the compensation for the divorce yet. Right. We haven't decided anything about the compensation yet. Please. Make it cheap. I spent a lot on the wedding and starting our life together. So I barely have any money left. I even used my money for this trip. Now, I have only about $3,000 in total. I get that you want to impress your girlfriend. But spending money recklessly is the problem. Unfortunately, I'll be asking for $25,000 in compensation for the affair. What? $25,000? The marriage was short. But since the divorce is due to your affair and your affair partner is pregnant, I think this amount is fair. If you have any complaints, shall we consult a lawyer? My ex-husband fell silent again, suddenly facing the prospect of being in debt in an almost empty apartment would indeed leave anyone in a daze. Now, my ex-husband needs to start buying furniture and appliances all over again to make the house livable. However, with hardly any money left, my young 26-year-old ex-husband will have to pay a substantial amount in compensation. This makes it seem like it will be a long time before he can afford to furnish a home again. But, as someone who's already divorced, whatever kind of life my ex-husband leads is none of my concern. I'll contact you again about the compensation. After explaining why the house was in such pristine condition, I ended the call. It's a pity I couldn't see my ex-husband's face directly. But this will surely make him realize he took his affair and our divorce too lightly. Later on, my ex-husband agreed to pay $25,000 as compensation for the affair. Consulting a lawyer, I was told I could have asked for more. However, for my young and nearly penniless ex-husband, $25,000 would be damaging enough. I didn't want the money, so I decided to let it go for $25,000. Since my ex-husband and his affair partner are young, I wanted them to join forces and start from scratch. However, it seems things didn't go well for them in the end. The affair partner, being a part-timer, apparently had no savings. My ex-husband only had $3,000, so he couldn't spend freely. After the house was stripped bare, they resorted to using cardboard boxes as a table and cooking with a portable stove since they had no gas stove, living a miserable life. It seems they couldn't handle such a life for even a week and ended up leaving the house. Since the affair partner was pregnant, it was determined that my ex-husband had to pay child support, despite divorcing me with the intention of marrying his affair partner. My ex-husband somehow ended up alone, with his financial obligations only increasing. Moreover, my ex-husband's downfall didn't stop there. He posted pictures of him and his affair partner on a trip on social media, announcing he had divorced me to marry her. Naturally, he faced a barrage of questions about his divorce and remarriage at work. Even if he divorced, once he revealed the breakup with his partner, he was asked about the reason for the breakup. He seemed to evade the questions. But such topics inevitably lead to rumors about the affair, pregnancy, compensation, and child support spreading, showing how curious the world can be. With his reputation tarnished at work, my ex-husband couldn't continue his job and resigned. He needs to find a new job soon since he has to pay for the affair compensation, child support, and secure living expenses. While being passionate and straightforward in love is often seen as good, considering what my ex-husband did and his current situation makes one ponder. I learned a lot from this experience. Some people are suited for love, while others are not. I think both my ex-husband and I weren't suited for love. There are many forms of happiness in today's world, aside from love and marriage. For now, I think having a job is enough, and I continue to devote myself to work.
Make sure everything is cleaned up. While I was having a cup of tea with Daisy, Sam said that and left. What's with that attitude? It's okay. It's not okay. Daisy got angry at me for getting used to Sam's attitude. Then, she offered to help clean. Ugh, my brother really does not know how to clean. Sam's room was such a mess. Daisy and I chatted while cleaning up. During that, Daisy reached for something. Oh, that's... I tried to stop Daisy from opening the drawer without permission. But before I could, I heard Daisy's surprised voice. What's this? Oh. What happened? Oh, no. Seeing the photo in Daisy's hand, I was speechless. A happy family photo and a completed divorce paper. That was a wake-up call. Daisy, will you help me? Of course. With a strong ally by my side, I started preparing to fight. Starting with getting rid of everything. Thinking that in my mind, I rolled up my sleeves. My name is Lisa. I am a 35-year-old housewife. I've been married for 5 years, and we don't have children. Still, I had a gentle and peaceful marriage life with Sam. Our meeting was arranged by an acquaintance, a so-called matchmaker. Both of us had just broken up with our exes and were tired of passionate romances. Sam and I shared similar values, but I didn't feel the excitement I had felt with my ex. However, thinking it was fate, I decided to marry Sam during the suitable age for marriage. Sam decided to marry me for a similar reason, so we never discussed it. Sharing the same values, we had no major troubles living together. We divided household chores and responsibilities. I handled the household chores, and Sam worked. Despite hearing about love marriages around us, I could genuinely say, I am happy about our marriage life. However, our peaceful life was suddenly disrupted. One day, Sam, who usually doesn't drink much, came home drunk. He returned at 3 a.m., and I greeted him at the entrance. Welcome back, you're late. It was supposed to be our usual routine, but Sam was acting strange that day. Shut up. It's my business when I come back. Eh? I was confused by the way he was acting. I could smell alcohol in his breath as he yelled and swore. After all, I married you to make you do household chores. Don't interfere with me. You're just a maid. That's. I was shocked to hear Sam's true feelings for the first time. Even though our relationship was a bit bizarre compared to others' relationship and marriage, I loved Sam, and I thought Sam loved me too. I wanted to marry someone younger and brag about it to everyone. That's pathetic. Pathetic? You stole my word out of my mouth. After tossing out those words, Sam quickly went into his study, lay down on his makeshift bed, and started snoring. I stood at the entrance, listening to Sam's snore, and cried. My marriage life until now seemed like an illusion. I thought it would only get harder from here. However, the next morning, Sam was his usual self again. Good morning. What time did I come back last night? I was pushed to drink a lot. Eh? Something wrong? No. Good morning. I was puzzled by Sam's behavior as if nothing had happened. Sam, concerned about my confusion, spoke to me even more. What's up? You're acting strange today. No, it's nothing. It can't be nothing. We're married, so we should be comfortable talking about everything. Then, let me say this. Unable to hold back, I told him about last night. Sam's expression gradually faded as I spoke. And the moment I finished, his attitude changed 180 degrees. So, it got out, huh? That's terrible. You must have decided to marry me based on my job, right? I married you because our values aligned. Yeah, enough of that. With those words, Sam cut off my speech and heavily sat down on a chair, then started giving orders with a jerk of his chin. Food. Make it quick. Food? Who do you think provides for you? Work properly, maid. I felt scared of the sudden change in his attitude. From then on, he began to treat me solely as a housekeeper. Hey, food. Sam no longer called me by my name, and although I was initially sad, I gradually became numb to it. Hey, isn't the bath ready? It's ready. Then say so sooner, you're so slow. I'm sorry. Eventually, I began to use polite language with Sam, and he took it as the natural attitude to have. A few months into living like this, Sam spoke up during a meal. I'm going on a business trip for a month from tomorrow. Get my things ready. A business trip? You got a problem with that? No, I understand. Sam works as a civil servant. I wondered if he really had business trips. Curious, yet I didn't dare to confirm it with Sam, who was grumpily complaining about his meal. At night, while preparing for the trip, Sam went to sleep at his usual time. I wondered how things came to this. All alone, I cried. Don't slack on the housework. Yes. That was all Sam said before leaving, not even a goodbye. The moment I was alone, I felt a sudden release of tension throughout my body. A month alone, huh? I was genuinely happy to get a break from the tense lifestyle for the first time in a while. At the same time, the thought of continuing this life for many more years slightly dampened my spirits. Well, no use worrying about it. I've got to enjoy this month no matter what. I deliberately spoke out loud to lift my spirits. Then, using my savings, I enjoyed meals out with friends, read books leisurely, and cherished my time alone. During that period, I thought a lot about the future and decided to take steps towards divorce. The first step was finding a job. However, Sam wouldn't be pleased with me working. After much consideration, I decided to try a part-time data entry job that I could do from home. Having worked as an office clerk before getting married, I had no problem using a computer. Gradually, I took on more tasks and increased my income. Just as I was getting used to this new lifestyle, Sam returned home after a month. Did you keep up with the housework? Yes. I wonder if that's true. Despite it being a long time since we last saw each other, Sam looked at me with an irritated gaze. Of course, there was no souvenir. I didn't even feel like complaining. Well, you pass, I suppose. Sam went around the house and said that. I felt my emotions fading away again. As long as Sam was around, I was an emotionless robot. I thought to myself again that I must divorce. After that, Sam often went on long business trips. Each time, I had to pack and then unpack his things. It was a relief that the hotels Sam stayed at did his laundry, leaving almost no laundry for me when he returned home. However, the scent from those clothes was something I really disliked. I couldn't count how many times I choked on the sweet, sticky scent of fabric softener. But complaining to Sam would only make him angry, so I always wore a mask when putting away his laundry. One day, my sister-in-law, Daisy, came to visit our house. Daisy, who is the same age as me but more active, has been great with me since the beginning of my marriage. I served Daisy some cake and tea I had made, and she sat down. After taking a bite, Daisy showed a smile. Lisa's cakes are always really delicious. My brother is so lucky. Is that so? What's wrong? Something happened? No, it's nothing. As I forced a smile, Daisy looked at me suspiciously. I offered her more cake while trying to change the subject. How about you, Daisy? Oh, listen to this, he left his socks lying around again. Isn't that cute? It's not cute. Daisy's he refers to her recently married husband. Apparently, a familiar face from the neighborhood, her husband, who is 10 years younger than her, pursued Daisy for 10 years before they got married. Initially, Daisy treated her husband like a child, but after being wooed for 10 years, she was charmed. Despite complaining, they somehow lived together happily. I felt very envious of my sister-in-law and her husband. Hey! Is everything ready? Ah, yes, it's ready. You're really slow. I'm sorry. It seemed Sam hadn't noticed Daisy's visit. Since we hardly talk, I hadn't informed him that she was coming. So, it was no surprise that Daisy was shocked by Sam's behavior. Sam headed straight for the entrance without showing his face in the living room. Make sure everything is cleaned up. Sam said that and left while I was having a cup of tea with Daisy. What's with that attitude? It's fine. It's not fine. Daisy got angry for me, getting too used to Sam's attitude, and then she offered to help clean. Ugh, my brother really does not know how to clean. Sam's room was quite a mess. Daisy and I chatted while tidying up. In the midst of it, Daisy reached for something. Oh, that's... I tried to stop Daisy from opening the drawer without permission. But before I could, I heard Daisy's surprised voice. What's this? Oh. What happened? Oh, no. I was speechless at the photo in Daisy's hand. A happy family photo and a completed divorce paper. That was my wake-up call. Daisy, will you help me? Of course. Having gained a strong ally, I began preparing to fight. The first step was getting rid of everything. With that thought in mind, I rolled up my sleeves. Daisy and I stuffed Sam's belongings into trash bags. We saved everything that could serve as evidence, including notebooks, photos, and letters. In the photos, Sam always had the gentle smile of our early marriage days. I collected them emotionlessly, while Daisy reacted to each one, expressing disgust and surprise each time. Hey, let's go to the city office now. Yes, let's do that. Daisy suggested it as if she came up with a mischievous plan, and I smirked back. Sam said, "Make sure everything is cleaned up. Let's clean up this relationship entirely." I quickly packed my immediate belongings, disposed of all of Sam's belongings, and headed to the city office in Daisy's car. After submitting the divorce papers, I went to stay at Daisy's house. Sister-in-law. Sorry for intruding. Daisy's husband was initially very surprised, but after hearing the situation from Daisy, he became even angrier than she was. To someone who had loved a single person for over a decade, what Sam did was unforgivable. "Sister-in-law, you're welcome to stay here as long as you need." "I appreciate it, thank you." After expressing my gratitude to Daisy, she apologized in return. However, Daisy had done nothing wrong. In fact, she found the evidence and even provided shelter. I was only grateful for Daisy. Sam said he would be on a business trip for a week. It would take that many days for him to realize I had left the house. I'll never forgive him. He's going to regret this. That's the spirit. Both my husband and I will help you. Daisy, thank you so much. Thanks to Daisy, I was filled with energy and motivation. I slept soundly that night, and the next day, I began looking for a lawyer. At the same time, I was searching for a new place to live, and through Daisy's connections, someone offered to rent me a room at a very affordable price. I gratefully decided to make that room my base as I continued my search for a lawyer. The first, second, and then the third lawyer I met with were all miss, leaving me exhausted. But on the fourth attempt, I finally came across a fantastic lawyer. Let's work hard together. Yes. Thank you very much. The lawyer's name was Mike, and he was a very stylish man. At first when I saw Mike, I was anxious that he might be a miss again, but it turned out that appearances can be deceiving. He efficiently handled everything from fact-checking to forecasting, making all my requests feasible. After discussing with Mike, we sent a certified letter to Sam's mistress. And we left Sam's copy on the living room table. Sam called 3 days later. "Hey. What's this all about?" As soon as I picked up the phone, I was greeted by Sam's angry voice. I responded calmly. "It's a certified letter, you know? So, why do I have to pay $50,000 in compensation? As it's written." This is so frustrating." Sam continued to complain irritably and kept lashing out. "Hey, whose money did you use for this?" "Mine." "Huh? It's money I earned, right?" "No, it's mine." While Sam provided the living expenses, my income became sufficient enough to cover my living costs. Therefore, the lawyer's fees were paid entirely with my savings. But no matter how much I explained, Sam refused to believe it. "You know what? You're just a useless woman. Just shut up and do the housework, and I'll keep you provided. Just come back home already." To be looked down upon to this extent. Fury rose from the depths of my stomach. I unleashed all of it onto Sam. "Maybe you're the one who can't live without me? I have enough income to support myself. You are unnecessary in my life. You. Just shut up and listen." Just as Sam tried to retort, a doorbell rang on the other end of the phone. I smiled at the sound. "Look, someone's at your door." "Who's here at such a timing?" "Dad, Mom." I almost laughed at the predictable turn of events but held it back, speaking into the phone. "Mother-in-law, your timing is impeccable. Lisa, thank you for letting us know. We'll deal strictly with this foolish son of ours." "Thank you." I thanked them and hung up the phone. My in-laws were both former teachers who strictly adhered to discipline. They were strict not only with themselves but also with others. Sam always said he was scared of his parents, but to me, they were kind and good in-laws. They would never condone Sam's infidelity. A few hours later, Daisy received a call from my father-in-law saying he had severely reprimanded Sam and wanted to arrange a meeting for discussion. "We'll come with you." "Daisy, thank you so much. I contacted my parents to schedule the discussion. They cried after hearing my story, making me feel somewhat guilty. Mom, I'm sorry for all this trouble. What are you saying? Your happiness is what matters most. For now, let's cut this bad tie as soon as possible. Yes, we might need some cleansing to take this bad juju away. Maybe I should do that too. I could hear Dad panicking on the other end of the phone as Mom said that, and I chuckled, playing along with her mischief. My parents had an arranged marriage, but they were so happy that others envied them. My positive view of arranged marriages was influenced by seeing how well my parents got along. It would be unthinkable for them to ever divorce. Mom, try not to tease Dad too much, okay? I'm counting on you for the day of discussion. Right, your father is such a crybaby. Leave the discussion to me. I could already hear the nearly tearful, flustered voice of my dad over the phone. What a heartwarming scene that is. After a bit more small talk with Mom, I hung up the phone. On the day of the discussion, because there were many of us, I chose our home as the venue. On the day, my lawyer, my sister-in-law and her husband, my in-laws, my parents, and I, totaling 8 people, gathered in front of the house. Entering the house, we were all shocked. What is this? It's filthy. It looks like my brother's room from back in the day. Even my in-laws were speechless at the mess. Sam was never great at tidying up, but he wasn't this bad. According to Daisy, this was because Sam had been hiding his true nature and was dumping everything on me. Sam was sitting at the living room table, zoning out, and when he noticed us, he started crying and tried to cling to me. My father-in-law stopped him, and Sam began to shout. Lisa, come back to me. Without you, I. Seeing Sam crying pathetically did nothing to me. I realized I no longer loved him and looked down at him with a smile. Why are you laughing? Look, it's all dirty because of you. Where have you been instead of doing the housework? We're already divorced, so I have no intention of doing the housework for this house. Sam's eyes widened at my words. Indeed, I hadn't yet told Sam that I had filed for divorce. I squatted down in front of him to tell him the truth. You told me to make sure everything was cleaned up. So, I did exactly that. Your room and our relationship. So that's why all my stuff was gone. Sam was shocked. I smiled and nodded, and his face turned red with anger. Don't mess with me. Who do you think has been supporting you all this time? That would be you. And I'm grateful for that. You repay kindness with betrayal. Oh, but I thought I was paying my dues with housework. With every retort I made, Sam seemed ready to burst with rage. Then, as he raised his hand to strike me, it was Sam who ended up getting hit. Holding his cheek in pain, Sam was stunned. Glaring at him while catching her breath was none other than my mother-in-law. I knew you were a bit insensitive, but I never imagined it would be to this extent. What you've done is unforgivable. Mom. Tears in her eyes, my mother-in-law stared him down, then turned to kneel before my parents and me. I deeply apologize for my son's outrageous behavior and for the pain he has caused Lisa. Mother-in-law, please, get up. You've done nothing wrong. My mother and I hurried to help her up. She continued to apologize, crying. Seeing his mother like this, Sam seemed to finally realize the gravity of his actions. Just as Sam started to speak, the doorbell rang at the perfect moment. With a smile, I went to greet our guests. Welcome, thank you for coming. Sorry for being late. No, you've arrived at just the right time. Please excuse the mess and come in. I led the guests into the living room. Sam's eyes widened in shock upon seeing them. Sherry. Sam. Sherry, the woman called by her name, awkwardly uttered Sam's name. I apologize for the late introduction. My name is Daniel Tachibana. This is my wife, Sherry. Yes, Sherry here. I'm so sorry for everything. Sherry started crying mid-sentence, just like she appeared in the photos with Sam. I smiled at her, encouraging her to continue. Let's start with how you two met. Well, it all started at a class reunion. You were his ex-girlfriend, right? And then you rekindled your relationship after meeting there. I'm so sorry. I didn't know he was married. I couldn't help but burst out laughing at Sherry's words. Sherry looked utterly frightened by my reaction. I decided to explain the reason behind my laughter. Here's a copy of the account I found. This is your account, right? Why do you have this? You went as far as showing your face, didn't you want to be noticed? I pointed out a specific line. Wish his wife would see this. It showed that everything Sherry had said was a lie. You had an affair knowing he was married. What a liar. But I didn't want to be sued for emotional damage and alimony. Of course, you're going to be. Daniel glared at Sherry with disdain. Meanwhile, Mike decided to move the conversation forward. Let's proceed. Sherry, we've demanded $40,000 in emotional damages from you, and $50,000 in alimony from Sam. You're both okay with that, right? I'll be demanding $30,000 from each of them. Sam and Sherry shook their heads vigorously at Mike's statement. Then, Sam started speaking in a weak voice. How can we possibly pay $150,000 between us, especially when raising a child? Right, in this time with declining birth rates, you should be kinder to parents. Sherry's attempt to support Sam's argument was met with a cold stare from Daniel. Only I and Mike, who were informed of the situation, understood why. How dare you say something so shameless? What are you talking about? Sherry was still trying to hide the truth. Looking straight at her, my mother-in-law delivered the knockout blow. That child in the photo isn't Sam's, is it? How could you know that? I mean, that child is Sam's. Oh, really? That's strange. What's strange? My mother-in-law chuckled, leaving Sherry frustrated, demanding an explanation. Sam can't have children. What? I thought I had informed Sam as well. What do you mean? That's what it means. Sherry slumped down, clearly overwhelmed by the revelation. It seemed Sam had completely forgotten, despite it being about his own body, a rather foolish oversight. I knew before getting married that Sam couldn't have children. The mother-in-law contacted me before I responded to the marriage proposal to disclose this fact. Though I was informed that fertility treatment might not be entirely hopeless, we agreed not to pursue having children. But it seemed Sam forgot all about that in the wake of the affair and the child that resulted from it. Why didn't you tell me? I forgot. How could you forget something so important? Sherry screamed in frustration, but Daniel interrupted with a calm voice. So, Sam's not the father. And neither am I. I was on a long business trip abroad, and by the time I returned, a child had been born. Quite the shock. Everyone shuddered at Daniel's story. The birth of the child evidently did not align with the timing of his return. Further investigation revealed the child's father, but also another shocking fact. The child's father is a male stripper. Not only that, Sherry has a debt of about $50,000, all spent at his store. You investigated? How low? I'd say the same to you. Daniel remained calm against Sherry's hysterical accusations, while Sam looked dumbfounded. Unaware of any other men in Sherry's life, Sam was utterly shocked. As tensions escalated, Daisy finally spoke up. Both my brother and that woman are the worst. What do you think you're doing to my dear sister-in-law? I will never forgive you. Daisy. Sam, having always adored Daisy, was speechless, being called the worst by her. Sherry, on the other hand, faced Daisy with hostility. What does this have to do with you? I'm her sister-in-law, so directly, it doesn't. But seeing someone important to me get hurt fills me with anger. Whatever. You'll probably get cheated on too. Caught off guard by Sherry's remark, Daisy faltered, but then her husband smiled and spoke up. Do you understand my feelings for her over the last 10 years? It took me 10 years to marry my wife. Don't compare my beloved wife to someone who changes her mind and betrays others so lightly. What? His calm and gentle tone carried unmistakable fury. Sherry was shook, unable to retort. Meanwhile, Mike laid out the settlement documents on the table. They were the consent forms for the compensation for the emotional damages and alimony to be paid to me and Daniel. Sam signed them with a lifeless look in his eyes. You're not going to divorce me, right? Are you kidding? Of course, I am. And don't worry, I'll be filing for a denial of paternity too. But that child is yours. What are you talking about? We've done a DNA test. Faced with Daniel's irrefutable smile, Sherry signed the document with a pale face. Well, whether you two stay married or separate isn't my concern. This house will be put up for sale next week. Sam, make sure you're out by then. Wait, Lisa, please Lisa. Ignoring Sam's pleas, I left the home I had grown accustomed to behind and returned to my new place, where I spent the night drinking tasty wine with Daisy and her husband. Later, I heard from Sherry's husband that she and Sam had separated. After we left the house, it seems they had a physical altercation. Sherry divorced her husband and moved back to her parents' house, where she was stripped of her child and sent off to work in a live-in job. In a workplace predominantly filled with women, her affair was exposed to everyone, leading her to be shunned. While I feel a twinge of pity, I also hope she continues working since she has to pay for my emotional suffering every month. Sherry's husband seemed a bit down but, being highly successful, remarried soon after. He married a woman who agreed to move with him, and after wishing them happiness, I haven't been in touch since. Sam was disowned by his family and lost his public servant job for engaging in an affair during work hours, claiming to work from home while spending most days at Sherry's. Having never worked outside of public service since graduating from college, Sam struggled to hold down a job and now works as a part-time road construction laborer. I know this because he frequently calls my former lawyer, Mike, to complain. I agreed to Sherry paying her share of the compensation in installments, but since Sam was disowned by his family, I asked him to pay the alimony in full. Naively incurring debt from dubious sources, he begged Mike to request for the return of the compensation so he could pay off the debts and pay the remainder in installments to me. Mike, of course, refused, leaving Sam to work day and night to repay his debts. My former in-laws began living with Daisy and her husband, a suggestion made by Daisy's husband which they joyfully accepted. They purchased a house near mine and now live in a duplex. I hang out with them weekly and maintain a great relationship, especially with my former mother-in-law, with whom I share a love for tea. The friendly fight between my former mother-in-law and Daisy over who gets more time with me has become a daily routine. Recently, I remarried to Mike, the lawyer who helped me through my ordeal. After several interactions post-case, he asked me out, leading to our relationship and eventual marriage on our 3rd anniversary, a month ago. Additionally, I'm pregnant and looking forward to becoming a mother next year. Coincidentally, Daisy is also pregnant, and we plan to be mom friends. Which one is it? A boy. What about you? A girl. Maybe they'll marry each other in the future? Who knows? After our checkup, Daisy and I headed home, discussing potential futures for our children. Our anxious husbands awaited at home. Seeing their restless figures, Daisy and I shared a look and laughed. Surrounded by worried but loving husbands and a trustworthy friend, I felt immensely happy. Oh, he moved. Let me feel. He's not moving now. Hey, why are you laughing? Just because. I wish for these peaceful days to last forever. With just 3 months until delivery, I eagerly anticipate meeting our child. It's only natural to choose a younger woman over an old hag like you, right? If I'm an old hag, then you're an old geezer. I wanted to retort but held back, glaring at my grinning husband instead. Indeed, I am older than my husband and the oldest in this household. The younger woman my husband pointed out is almost half my age. Yes, The woman my husband had an affair with is none other than our daughter-in-law. The said daughter-in-law, being called a younger woman, my husband pointed out, is almost half my age. After all, don't you feel sorry for her? For a woman to marry a man like this, it's no wonder she'd want to cheat once or twice. What my husband dismissively referred to was our son. Such a heartless comment about our child who had just received a terminal diagnosis. I was about to shout in anger when a calm voice spoke up from behind me. "Hey, Mom." Our son, caught in the middle, had a surprisingly calm face. But seeing the uncontainable anger in his eyes, I involuntarily held my breath. "There's something I need your help with." "That's okay, right? My name is Courtney. I'm a 55-year-old office worker. My husband, Robert, is younger at 51. We met in a mountain climbing club 30 years ago. The age range in the mountain climbing club I belonged to was from the 20s to the 60s, with a fairly equal number of men and women. Mountain climbing is great, isn't it?" "Courtney, why did you start mountain climbing?" Robert was personable and cheerful, making him easy to talk to even at first meeting. "I started because of my father's influence." "Influenced by your dad, that's nice. What about you, Robert? Why did you start mountain climbing?" "If there's a mountain, a man just wants to climb it." "What's that supposed to mean?" Thanks to his indiscriminately friendly nature, we quickly became friends. "How old are you, Courtney?" "Me? I'm 26. Older. Older women are wonderful, aren't they?" "Really? But if I'm older, that means you're younger, right?" "How old are you?" "I'm 22. So young. Only a 4-year difference." "That's quite a big difference, actually." "Is it?" Talking to him was so much fun. And on that very day we met, he proposed to me at the mountain summit. Actually, I fell in love with you at first sight. I had already given my heart to him during our climb, so I accepted his relationship proposal right there. From the day we first met, we became a couple. With mountain climbing as our common hobby, we never ran out of things to talk about. While enjoying dates as lovers, we also participated in the mountain climbing club's activities together. A year into our relationship, I discovered I was pregnant. This led to me and him getting married. After getting married, I realized my husband didn't have much savings. Although he was working hard as a company employee, he was still young at 23, and his salary was less than mine. Rather than not having savings, it seemed more like he had the kind of personality that spent his salary as soon as he got it. I was on maternity leave by the time I entered my 9th month of pregnancy. While on leave, I could receive a salary from my company, but it was less than what I earned while working. Because of this, I greatly relied on my parents, who lived nearby, for financial support. Not only did my parents help financially, but they also provided various other forms of support, allowing me to safely give birth to a boy. We named our son Sean and raised him with care. Before Sean turned 1, I returned to work. Raising a child while balancing work was challenging, but we supported our lives through dual income. Sean grew up healthy and strong. Time flew by, and before we knew it, Sean was 24. After graduating from college, our son moved out and seemed to be working hard on his own. He contacted us saying, "I have something important to discuss with you and Dad, so please keep next Sunday free." And today is that Sunday. Both my husband and I were restless. When the doorbell rang and we opened the front door, there stood Sean and a woman of his age beside him. She was a demure-looking lady who seemed like she would suit a kimono well, quite adorable. "Dad, Mom, let me introduce you. This is Kim, whom I am currently dating. Nice to meet you. My name is Kim." Kim bowed her head slightly. "She's a lovely young lady." Hearing this, my son smiled happily. "I'm thinking of marrying Kim." Sean declared that, standing together with Kim. Kim was apparently one of Sean's subordinates. Receiving the news that my son was getting married, I savored the happiness deeply. Oh, Sean is at the age to get married now. What's with that, Mom? Getting all sentimental. So, what do you like about Kim? I might have been too forward, but I asked directly. She's usually quiet, but I like that she can speak her mind when it matters. She doesn't hesitate to say what she wants, even to her boss, me. That's because Sean. Let's not start with the criticisms, okay? Everyone burst into laughter. Seeing their harmonious atmosphere made me feel incredibly happy. After Sean and his fiancée, Kim, left, I spoke to my husband. She was a lovely lady, wasn't she? Yeah, very adorable. You keep saying adorable, adorable. I sighed in response. Do I still look young? You do look younger than your age, but don't take Kim's words too seriously. They're just being polite. I'm already 52, and my husband is turning 48, but he seemed very pleased with Kim's words. You look like a cool father-in-law. 2 years after the marriage proposal, our son, now 26, and his wife came over. Actually, we want to build our own home, so we're saving up for it. Could we possibly live with you to help with that? Live with us? Well, I don't mind. But you have Kim's consent, right? Our house had enough room for the son and his wife to stay. However, I couldn't imagine anyone would be happy about living with their in-laws after just 2 years of marriage. When I asked, it turned out that the idea of living together came from my daughter-in-law. When the four of us discussed it later, my daughter-in-law seemed genuinely happy and looking forward to it. I wondered if this was common nowadays, then looked at my husband. What about you? What do you think? My husband's face lit up at the mention of the topic. Well, if we lived together, we could see our grandchild right away if one were to be born, right? Seeing my husband agree so readily, I found myself nodding in agreement. I understood it was a decision for them to make, but I too was looking forward to the birth of a grandchild. Thus, with everyone's wishes, we started our life living together with our son and his wife. I work, so I am not home much. Kim, having resigned from her job upon marriage in a practice known as retirement upon marriage, is now a full-time homemaker. Therefore, she is at home all day. I am very grateful to her for taking care of things like receiving deliveries, doing the laundry, and preparing meals. However, the fact that we spend little time together means we avoid unnecessary conflicts, and life has been smooth sailing. But this lifestyle did not last long. About a year after we started living together, our son was diagnosed with a disease that was weakening his immune system. No one spoke during dinner on the day his illness was discovered. I tried to accept it somehow, but I couldn't sleep at all that night, imagining the worst-case scenario. After the discovery of our son's illness, Kim, who was a homemaker, started working part-time to earn money for his treatment and began to be out often. As our son's condition worsened, he eventually needed a wheelchair for mobility. We decided to support our son as a family, relying on a helper during the day. One evening, while doing the dishes, Kim had a request. I have a sudden shift at work tomorrow. But tomorrow is the day to take Sean to the hospital. I tried to say no because it was impossible, but they insisted I must come in. Could you please take Sean to the hospital tomorrow? Of course. Thank you so much. Mom's taking me tomorrow? Hearing my son's frail voice from the living room connected to the kitchen, I rushed over to listen to him. After the hospital, can we go shopping? There's something I want to buy. Of course, we can. Then, why don't you two go have some coffee after shopping? There's that new pancake place, right? My husband suggested while fiddling with his smartphone next to my son. Sure, let's have pancakes for lunch then. The next day, I pushed my son's wheelchair and we went to the hospital. Perhaps because it was a Monday, the hospital was quite crowded, and my son seemed tired from the throngs of people. So, we decided to change our plans for shopping and head home early. In the car, my son told me he wanted to buy a present for Kim as a thank you for always supporting him. But it's pathetic, isn't it? Wanting to buy something and not being able to go by myself. And in the end, I couldn't buy it today. Hearing my son mutter softly in the car made my throat tight. Perhaps it's the thought that counts. Sean remained silent. I tried to keep my voice as cheerful as possible without sounding forced. How about we have pasta for lunch? We arrived home much earlier than planned. And there was Kim's car, parked when she was supposed to be at her part-time job. Oh. I wonder if Kim's shift was cancelled. As I thought this and got out of the car, passing by Kim's car parked in front of the house, I saw something horrifying. Inside Kim's car were Kim and my husband, who was supposed to be at work. Sean, could you go inside first? I encouraged Sean, in his wheelchair, to enter the house on his own. After making sure my son had entered the house, I caught my husband's eye through the window. He was crouched down, fiddling with something outside of view. Curious, I peeked into my daughter-in-law's car and saw my husband trying to fasten his belt in the cramped space of the car. The car seat was reclined, and my husband was on top of Kim, in close contact. Clearly, this was not a situation befitting a father-in-law and daughter-in-law. Knock knock. I tapped on the car window and told them to come inside. So, what exactly were the two of you doing in that cramped car? I confronted my husband and daughter-in-law in a space separated by a door from the room where my son was resting. It was clear to anyone that there was no excusing their situation. Yet, neither of them seemed flustered. Waiting silently for one of them to speak, my husband snorted. As you saw. There's only one thing a man and a woman do in a cramped car, right? My husband responded defiantly. I had never seen such an ugly expression on his face before. His attitude and words made my blood boil instantly. A man and a woman. You are in the positions of father-in-law and daughter-in-law. And there's a significant age gap, right? Age is just a number. It's all about appearance. Right now, I look younger, don't I? Healthier than sick Sean, with his pale face. You've been thinking like that. I was just helping Kim out, instead of our son who can't move freely. Ah, Kim is so diligent. She was secretly crying knowing our son's life is short. I just spoke to her, that's all. You just took advantage of the situation. And Kim, are you okay with this? I questioned my daughter-in-law, who was standing next to my husband with a displeased expression. I want to live a fun life too. I hate having to juggle part-time work, hospital visits, and housework every day. Why do I have to suffer this much when other people are still enjoying their lives? Right, Kim is still young. It's pitiful for her to spend her days caring for a sick person and working. You stay out of this. I shouted loudly to stop my husband. Unlike Sean, Robert has money and is healthy, so he can fulfill various desires. I've decided to switch to Robert. I couldn't stand looking at the two of them, calling each other Robert and Kim. So, you two have been involved since Sean fell ill? That's right. My husband said calmly. Is everything you've just said true? The living room door opened, and there was my son, managing his wheelchair with trembling arms, looking at them angrily. You mean all of this is true? While I was suffering from my illness, you two were getting along just fine? My son confronted them loudly. But considering his weakened state, even raising his voice must have been tough. I went to my son's side and placed my hand on his back. Sean has no right to yell at me. The seemingly gentle daughter-in-law raised her voice before continuing. I thought I was marrying into a happy life. Despite retiring upon marriage, I ended up having to work again, and my days were reduced to a cycle of hospital visits, part-time work, and house chores. I couldn't even enjoy shopping or traveling. I've been suppressing my desires, taking care of you all this time. That's right, Sean. You should be thanking Kim first. I noticed my son clench his fists tightly and couldn't help but yell at my daughter-in-law in frustration. What kind of attitude is that? We have a helper during the day, and your father and I mainly take care of you at night. And you say you had to work, but we've been providing most of the living expenses. The treatment costs were covered by Sean's insurance. She spoke as if she had sacrificed everything, but the reality was different. She hardly took care of my son. She was working during the day, and I was the one primarily taking care of him at night. We had agreed to equally share household chores after she started working, but I ended up doing most of it because she said her new job was tough. I provided for the living expenses and took care of everything, wondering if I was just being used as a caretaker. Despite everything, I had cooperated because I understood what it was like for her, having a husband who fell seriously ill at a young age. But to be treated like this was unforgivable. However, my husband seemed completely oblivious to my feelings. Seems like Kim had a lot of grievances. About various things. He said with a vile smile on his face. With your condition, you couldn't satisfy your wife, could you? A husband who doesn't have money, in fact, costs money because of his illness. It's only natural for her to leave a husband who only causes her trouble. That's right. Don't make me out to be the bad guy. The bad one is you, for getting sick. I couldn't contain my anger towards a wife who didn't provide care, didn't contribute to the household, and a husband who could stoop so low as to insult his son struggling with illness. Enough from both of you. Why does my son, who was even thinking of buying his wife a gift after the hospital visit, have to endure this? I was seething with rage. We're getting a divorce. I said that to my husband. I want a divorce from you. That works out for me. I'm happier being with someone younger and cuter than an older woman anyway. I'll give you a divorce. He wrapped his arm around my daughter-in-law, smirking. Kim, I want you to divorce me too. My son said to his wife with a trembling voice, expecting her to agree. No. She answered immediately. If I divorce you now, I won't get any inheritance, right? After all the hardships I've endured, I think I deserve your inheritance. What are you talking about? Please, just divorce my son and do whatever you want with that man. It's as if she's wishing for my son to leave this world sooner by talking about inheritance while he's still alive. No, but I'll be leaving this house. When you die, I'll come for the inheritance. Saying this, my husband and daughter-in-law quickly packed their things and left. Standing dumbfounded next to me, my son showed his resolve. Mom, I need your help with something. His voice was firm. I'll make sure those two regret what they've done. I'll never forgive them. I could see a quiet rage burning within him. Unlike me, his calmness was admirable. With what? Do you have a plan? Yes. I'll support you in whatever way I can. Then, will you listen to my plan? Of course. My son and I devised a plan. Eventually, only my husband returned home, holding a divorce paper, and we quickly finalized our divorce. As for my daughter-in-law, no matter how many times my son and I tried to contact her, there was no response. 5 years later, my son passed away. I still can't get over the wish that he could have lived longer than me. Many people, including medical professionals and colleagues from the company he worked for before his illness, gathered at my son's funeral. Among the many attendees, I spotted two faces I had never forgotten in the last 5 years. My ex-husband and my son's wife. Oh, you came. Approaching them, I noticed both my ex-husband and daughter-in-law looked considerably shabby. My husband, who once boasted that appearance was everything, looked older than his actual age with sunken cheeks, and my daughter-in-law had lost her initial cuteness, her face now harsh and worn. Both were dressed in tattered clothes. As soon as they saw me, their eyes lit up like a cat that found its prey. I'm here for the inheritance. She said to me as if it were the most natural thing. I deserve the inheritance for all the care I've given him. It's only right. That's right. There should be an inheritance. You're not planning to keep it all to yourself, are you? A child's property is supposed to be inherited by the parents. Even if we divorced because of infidelity, the parent-child bond can't be broken. I'm also entitled to Sean's inheritance. Hurry up and give us the money. This man has had no savings, and these past 5 years have been very tough. But I endured it, thinking it was just until I received Sean's inheritance. You'll forgive me for the affair 5 years ago, right? The change in my daughter-in-law elicited a bitter laugh. She used to sweetly call him Robert, and now it's just this man. The only reason my ex-husband had money to spend freely was that I gave him an allowance. I earned more than my husband from the beginning of our marriage, so I had been giving him a monthly allowance. Restricting his spending too much could have led to him hiding his salary or not contributing to household expenses, which would have been disastrous. So from the beginning, giving him a bit extra as an allowance was just to avoid wasteful spending or hiding money. By saving like that, I protected our finances, but divorcing me to marry a younger woman wouldn't change his nature. He's still not good at saving money and spends whatever he has. The two of them might have left with great fanfare, but their life must have become much harder. It's like they're real hyenas, finding out about my son's death from who knows where. Come on, give us the inheritance. There must be some savings for a home, right? If you've used it up, I won't forgive you. I'll take that along with the inheritance. They came at me demanding, but I stood firm and said sharply, "There's no inheritance for you to receive." "What do you mean?" "This is what I mean." I showed them a document. As soon as they saw it, their faces turned pale. "Give it here." She snatched the document from me, her shoulders trembling. "A donation certificate." She slowly read the words on the document aloud. "That's right. Recently, my son, realizing his time was near, donated his entire fortune to a medical research institution. This is the certificate of that donation. So, there's not a single penny left of the inheritance you came for. That can't be. What was I enduring these 5 years for?" It seemed my daughter-in-law had grown tired of my ex-husband long ago and was only with him for the sake of my son's inheritance. "Then give me money. I was the one taking care of your son, taking him to the hospital, working part-time. I sacrificed myself for him, so I deserve some money." She was so desperate for money that she demanded it from me. "Since you both vanished without a trace, there's something I couldn't inform you about. So, let me tell you now, right here." "What is it?" I prepared to reveal another truth to my son's wife, who was glaring at me. "You are no longer Sean's wife. The divorce has been finalized long ago. So, you don't have any right to Sean's inheritance to begin with." "What?" "That's a lie, right?" Actually, on the day their affair came to light, my son had been recording their conversation from behind the door where I was interrogating the two of them. After they left the house, my son and I took that recording to a lawyer. When we expressed a desire to divorce his wife who had become unreachable due to infidelity, we were advised about going to court. We proceeded with a public notification, and the trial began in her absence. My son's divorce was quickly granted. So, you see, you're no longer pretending to be Sean's wife because you're now a complete stranger. A stranger. Such a foolish girl, really. Living with some other man for 5 years. If my ex-husband truly loved my daughter-in-law, he might have encouraged her to divorce and remarry him at some point. But in the end, he just wanted a young woman who would give herself to him and take care of him. Both of them were just waiting for Sean to pass away, doing nothing to change their own situation. That's why my daughter-in-law didn't realize she was now single, and my ex-husband didn't want to let go of a young wife who looked after him. I sighed deeply before turning back to face them. Furthermore, I've filed for damages against both of you for your adultery. Rest assured, you'll be paying the compensation. Compensation? You can't be serious. We're already in debt as it is. We thought the inheritance would clear that debt, but there's no way we can pay compensation now. Exactly. Why are you demanding compensation now of all times? I had always intended to claim compensation. You two just went missing before I could do it. Now that you've returned, of course, I'm going to demand it. By the way, I've recorded everything you've said since you arrived. Trying to deny the affair now won't work." At this, they seemed furious, both attempting to lunge at me. "Hey! What are you doing? However, medical staff and company employees present restrained them, so I was unharmed. Are you okay? Yes, thank you. While being restrained, my ex-husband and my son's ex-wife kept shouting, "Give us the money." Soon after, the sound of a police car approached, and officers arrived. The two of you are suspected of fraud. We'll need you to come with us to the station. It seems someone at my son's funeral must have called the police. The two were taken away by the police. Later, I heard from the police that my ex-husband and my son's ex-wife had turned to fraud to repay their debts. Further investigation revealed more crimes, and they would be spending some time behind bars. It was surprising they had stooped to fraud. The two who had hurled insults at my son were now facing social consequences. My son's ex-wife had wasted her 20s, a prime time of her life, on such follies. While I sympathized with her for my husband becoming seriously ill at a young age, everything else was their own doing. I had no more thoughts for the two who had even engaged in criminal activities. I don't know the extent of their debts, but they might be chased by repayments till their deaths. I might never receive the compensation I demanded, but I'm past caring. If they're suffering that much, I wish them to endure it far away from me. Years have passed since my son's death, but I still receive thank you letters from patients every day, grateful for his donation. Reading these letters, I'm proud of my son's decision. My son's decision to wait for his death to benefit others ensured that not a single penny went to those two, and his contributions are still helping many. When he told me about his plan, my son said, "I'm sorry I can't leave anything for you, Mom." But even years after his funeral, I continue to receive letters of gratitude towards my son. His choice continues to be a source of life for others. What a proud thing it is. I was fortunate to have such a wonderful son. I chose to keep working even after retirement. My job is fulfilling and enjoyable. I'm truly grateful I acquired professional qualifications and knowledge when I was younger. Back then, I was desperate to raise my son, working hard to increase my salary through studying for qualifications. I have enough assets to live on my own, and I owe it all to my son. And I've continued my hobby of mountain climbing. Sean, thank you. I'll make sure to enjoy the rest of my life to the fullest, so wait for me there. I spoke to my son, smiling at his photo on the altar.
I'm marrying a new woman.
Huh? What are you talking about?
Since you're broke, there's no point in continuing this relationship. We're done.
He who had used my savings without permission to buy a house is dreaming of a new life with his affair partner. You idiot, go to hell. My name is Tracy, a 34-year-old programmer who works from home. I met my husband David at a mixer party organized by friends. We hit it off talking about asset management, and when I mentioned my savings of hundreds of thousands, he became eager. Although he didn't have much going for him as a man, the conversation was interesting, so we got married. It's been a year since we registered our marriage, and we still don't have any children. Not to brag, but I receive a pretty good salary as a programmer. The assets I've been steadily building since my single days are about to reach the $500,000 mark. If I continue working for this company until retirement, I wonder if I can live without working. Until my assets run out, I can use my time freely. That's the kind of dream life I was imagining just before I got married. My parents died in an accident when I was 12, and I was raised by my maternal grandparents. My grandfather, who was a businessman, always said,
No matter how much money you have, it's never enough.
He would always whisper in my ear,
Money is meant to be spent. Having a lot of money attracts people. Money troubles can really take a toll on your heart.
He used to say, money goes around the world a lot. Anyway, money is never a problem, and if you spend it wisely, it will come back to you. Maybe because I was raised by my grandfather like that, I naturally found saving money enjoyable. For my first day of work, I invested a portion of my salary in investment trusts and built up the assets I mentioned earlier. My husband has been devoted to me since we started dating. He was always a real gentleman. It was like he always put ladies first, which was pretty funny. He would pull out my chair at restaurants. He would open the door to the passenger seat and wait for me when we got in the car. But when it actually happened, I felt loved, or rather, I felt his affection, that was for sure. It was very fresh, and I was proud of my husband. However, my husband changed drastically as soon as we got married. One morning after staying up late until dawn, I rubbed my sleepy eyes and left the bedroom. "Good morning." I called out to my husband sitting on the living room sofa, but he was completely absorbed in his smartphone and didn't even glance at me. I took a quick shower and sat in front of my computer as usual. The sound of typing echoed in the quiet room. I focused on my work in the quiet space. My husband patted my shoulder. "What is it?"
Give me some money.
My husband always asks for money like this. "Come on, enough already." I handed him the money and he quickly left the house. When I cut off the money, his attitude became indifferent. The number of times we saw each other decreased and he became colder and colder. I was getting sick of how he was treating me these days. One night when I returned home from being out, my husband was lounging on the sofa. The TV was on, but his eyes were glued to his smartphone. Should I turn off the TV?
Huh? I'm watching it, so don't touch it.
My husband's roughness caught me off guard as he snatched the remote control from my hand, but I quickly brushed it off. My husband, who is just an ordinary office worker, had been given a transfer recently. Could that be why he's in a bad mood? That's all I thought. Since that day, my husband's attitude has been like this all the time. He gets angry easily at anything I say, and he stopped eating dinner at home. One day I called him. "Hey, aren't you coming home yet? I'm making dinner."
No, I don't need to.
"Huh? If you'd told me sooner, I wouldn't have cooked."
If you're gonna complain, you don't have to cook.
Why is it like this? Is it because of work?
What else could it be?
There was no getting through to him. I thought it would be troublesome to argue back, so I managed to hold back somehow. And finally, the days he didn't come home increased. There was no prior notice, and when I called, all I got was,
I have an unexpected business function tonight and won't be able to catch the last train. Looks like I'll be booking a hotel room.
This was the kind of response I always got. Does the business function usually happen so frequently and unexpectedly? I was unsure, but perhaps it does occur without my awareness. When I began to feel suspicious of my husband's actions, I came across his tablet that was left charging while I was cleaning. He always carries it with him, I thought, but then a message popped up, brightening the screen. "Where should we go today? The place we went last time was good, right?" There were messages with numerous heart emojis. This was definitely from his mistress. I knew something was off, but when confronted with such blatant evidence of infidelity, a woman's pride starts to ache. Digging deeper, the conversations and photos with the other woman were overflowing. Ugh, being played for a fool to such a degree? For a moment, nausea overcame me, but I gritted my teeth and took a deep breath through my shoulders. Their interactions were all very superficial and unimportant. What foolish discussions. This is like something middle schoolers would do when they're just discovering puppy love. All I felt after finishing reading those vulgar messages was anger. Despair and anger turned into flames of revenge, and the burning heart gave me courage. If he has a mistress, I'll definitely claim compensation and divorce him. I was preparing for various things with that determination. It was then, contrary to my expectations, that my husband suddenly said,
Let's get divorced.
Huh?
I'm marrying a new woman. Haha.
Huh?
I bought a newly built house too, so it's goodbye to you here.
Without a hint of remorse, my husband declared it cheerfully. Huh? A newly built house?
I actually bought a house.
Huh? Where did you get that kind of money from?
Well, from various sources.
My husband had a smug smile on his face.
I've left the divorce papers on the table, so fill out your part and submit it.
Huh? Just like that?
We probably won't see each other anymore, but take care.
With the packed belongings prepared in advance, my husband left promptly. It didn't take even 10 minutes for his presence to disappear. In the blink of an eye, I was left dumbfounded and speechless. Before we got married, I was already aware of his careless approach to both money and women. I had prepared myself for this someday. I have plenty of savings and I earn more than my husband, so even if I end up single, I won't be in trouble. However, my husband's words about buying a newly built house bothered me. Where on earth did he manage to scrape up that much money? I couldn't believe my husband, who always begs me for pocket money, had the capability to buy a house. So I checked the whereabouts of my own bank passbook. It's not here, I can't find it. No matter how much I searched, I couldn't find my passbook. My passbook with $500,000 that I had been saving since I was single. Could it be? When I checked the balance on the banking app on my phone, no way. The balance was $1.16. It had been withdrawn in 3 installments. Tremors of anger coursed through my body as I dropped to the floor, my phone clenched tightly in response to my husband's criminal behavior. I couldn't believe he would go this far. It was truly unimaginable. This was the first and only time I had ever felt so much anger towards someone. I won't forgive him. I'll definitely get it back, and I'll make him pay back double. I visited a law firm on the same day. The lawyer first suggested that I didn't know my husband's whereabouts or how he spent the embezzled money. I should consult the police and file a report. The police can search for my husband and investigate how the money was spent. If my husband is found, I can request the return of the embezzled money through civil procedures, such as sending a registered letter demanding repayment or filing for mediation in court. And if the marital relationship has broken down, divorce is an option, requiring discussions about property division and compensation. I had already decided on divorce, but I put off reporting it to the authorities and consulted the police for now. According to the police officer in charge, embezzling a spouse's savings is generally considered embezzlement or misappropriation. Embezzlement is a crime punishable by law, and if certain conditions are met, criminal penalties may be imposed. Specifically, if a husband embezzles his wife's savings without permission, it constitutes a violation of the wife's property rights and is legally problematic. Also, the husband needs to be proven guilty of planning to embezzle to get charged, and if he took a lot of money, he could face some serious consequences. After hearing detailed explanations from the lawyer and the police officer about this, I understood. To sum it up, my husband's acts of embezzlement and infidelity are serious breaches of trust, potentially providing sufficient grounds for divorce, and claims for damages and compensation are justified. Moreover, those acts are undoubtedly criminal, and if I file a report, the police will investigate. And then, within less than a week, the police helped me locate my husband's whereabouts. Following the guidance of my lawyer, I decided to send my husband a written claim for damages and compensation for mental anguish for the time being. So about a month later, I received a call from him on my cell phone.
Hey, what's going on?
What are you talking about? Of course, the caller was my husband.
I got a bill from a law firm.
Oh, that. I thought it was about time.
Are you serious about this?
Yes, of course. What I had sent to my husband through the lawyer was a bill demanding $600,000 for the repayment of my savings and compensation as a condition for divorce. I had also hinted at criminal prosecution if he didn't comply.
We're married, you know. Your savings should be shared by the married couple, right?
My husband was completely ignorant of the law. Just so you know, whatever money I saved up before tying the knot is still mine, not ours as a couple. So if you took any without asking, I can legally make you hand it back to me.
Impossible. $600,000?
Then I'll sue you in civil court and seize all your assets. I'll even consider pressing criminal charges, so brace yourself.
Damn it.
After muttering something, my husband's attitude suddenly changed.
Fine, I'll pay, alright?
Oh, what's gotten into you all of a sudden?
If I pay off the $600,000, you won't press criminal charges and agree to divorce, right?
Exactly. You catch on fast, don't you? From the laughter on the phone, I could vaguely guess where the money came from. You plan to use your mistress to pay, don't you?
So what? Money is money.
He's still being deceived. He's still seeing that woman without even knowing her background. I had already gathered all the information about her from a private investigator. As a parting gift, let me enlighten you. Do you think of that woman as the daughter of a wealthy family or a CEO's daughter?
I don't need to answer you.
Oh well, listen carefully. That woman is a professional con artist. She approaches wealthy-looking men, claiming to be an heiress or a CEO's daughter, takes their money, and then disappears. Several men have filed police reports against her.
No way you're lying. She's the CEO's daughter. I've met her father, and he promised to make me the CEO in the future.
Oh my, you're as stupid as ever. By the way, did you buy the new house in her name? How foolish of you.
It can't be true, right? We were engaged. I even bought her a ring.
Oh, that's quite something. By the way, is she still at the house?
She seemed to be considering something after seeing the documents from the law firm. She said, I'll go back to my parents' house for a while, and left last night.
Oh dear, did she run away?
That's impossible.
Well, we should confirm whose name the new house is under. Well then, let's end it here for today. I said that and hung up the phone. And then, a week later, my husband returned home with a pale face.
That woman sold the house and disappeared.
Just as I thought. You reap what you sow. By the way, you'll pay back my savings and the divorce settlement, won't you?
There's no way I have that kind of money. Please, don't divorce me.
He cheated on me, got dumped by that girl, and even swindled me out of the house. What a despicable human being. I never imagined he would be this foolish. It's too late to play the victim now. I won't give you a single penny, and divorce is definite. Just talking to him gave me a headache.
Wait, I was deceived. I'm the victim, right?
For some reason, my husband is trying to play the victim at this point.
Please, come on, I still need you. I'll dedicate my life to you this time, I promise.
He clung to my legs, begging for reconciliation while sobbing. What a disgraceful sight. It's too late to play the victim now. Everything from taking my money to being deceived by that woman is all your own doing. Be prepared. I forcefully pulled away from my husband, uttered those words, and he left dejectedly. Of course, the divorce was finalized. I promptly filed a criminal complaint against my ex-husband and his mistress, and also filed a civil lawsuit for the return of my money. After a while, both of them were arrested. My ex-husband ended up drinking his troubles away at some shabby bar. The woman who deceived my ex-husband was carrying cash from selling the house with her, but when she was caught, she only had about $10,000 left. In response to the investigation, my ex-husband confessed.
I married for my wife's savings. I never thought I would be deceived in the same way.
He's still playing the victim. Well, that's the kind of man he is. He totally deserved what he got. That woman apparently targeted my ex-husband as her 12th victim, explaining his pathetic state by saying, "It was easy to trick him." The total amount she swindled from her previous 11 victims seems to be around $4 million, and she too wasted all on her extravagant host club visits. Basically, if you can't see past your own wants and needs, you're gonna get some bad karma coming your way in the end. Serves them right. Although I was quite dismayed by my own lack of judgment in choosing a partner, thanks to the efforts of my lawyer, the newly built property was successfully transferred into my name without any issues. I had no intention of living in that house, so I rented an apartment and started a new single life. My job as a programmer was going well, and my salary was gradually increasing. I was thinking of starting to save money again, but I heard that there was a buyer for that house. It seems that it's located in an area involved in nearby redevelopment projects and was valued at $1 million. There's no choice but to sell it off. Maybe I'll go on a nice overseas trip. Perhaps a trip around the world someday. I've experienced divorce and even got involved in a crime, but my assets doubled in just a short period. Surely this journey is filled with hope for further asset growth. Watch over me, Grandpa.